Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Majlis Ash-Shura, the Islamic Leadership Council of New York special webinar series. Tonight we have a very special webinar series in honor of Women's History Month, and today's topic will be about Muslim women's leadership and the challenges and rewards of community grassroots work. So Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Assalamu alaikum. Tonight we'll shortly begin. Tonight we have very special sisters, Afaf Nasher from CAIR-New York and the lovely Sister Aisha al-Adawiya. So Sister Aisha al-Adawiya may be experiencing some technical problems. I don't see your camera working, Sister Aisha. I don't know if you can hear me. Let's try. Yeah, there's always technical problems in the age of COVID where everything's via Zoom and StreamYard. Well, in any case, while Sister Aisha is figuring out her technical issues, Sister Afaf, it's so good to, I know we work with each other, but honestly, it's just good to see you and be able to have such a great I'm really excited for the conversation that we're about to have because you're such a big, important community figure. The work that you and CAIR-New York does is amazing. So, give us a little bit of an introduction about you, yourself, your work, how long you've been doing it.
Sure. Okay. So first of all, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you, Sister Lamia. Thank you for Majlis for organizing this. We've got to get Sister Aisha al-Adawiya on here because the truth is that I wanted to learn more from her than to participate in this because she's been longer than I have. And I also want to say that you were extremely generous in your introduction. The work that CAIR-New York does is certainly a team effort. It does not go to any one individual and certainly not myself. And so what is that work? Well, hopefully everyone knows by now that CAIR-New York is the New York chapter on the Council on American-Islamic Relations. It's a very important organization because we are a Muslim-led civil rights organization, grassroots in nature. We represent people legally. We do public advocacy. We do policy work. We represent hate crime victims, work discrimination victims, young people in schools. There's just so much to the work. And most recently, we're now adding immigration, although we were already doing parts of that were particularly egregious, but now we're expanding our immigration services because the entire immigration process has been so saturated with discrimination that we just couldn't ignore the demands of our community. So there's a lot of work that CAIR-New York does in partnership with, of course, coalition members like Majlis Ash-Shura with our civic engagement project and so many others like MAS and other national organizations across the nation. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Oh, once again, I'm so honored to have this conversation with you. I really hope, Sister Aisha, can you hear us?
It may be more of a connection problem, it looks like, possibly.
Yeah, that's what it seems like to me also. Okay, so let me remove her temporarily. And okay, I'm just going to mute her mic in the meantime. All right. So I'm so sad that Sister Aisha can't be here at the moment, but inshallah we'll get her soon. Let's just jump into the first question. For now, it'll just be you and me, but
sure, casual conversation between sisters. It's my pleasure and honor.
Exactly. I really hope more people join the live stream because honestly, women's issues are they're not taken seriously. They're kind of sidelined, and people tend to care more about very other important different issues. But I feel like whenever it comes to Women's Month or just the issue of women's experiences, it's like,
You know what? I'll be honest with you, Sister Lamia. Look, yeah. I don't know whether it's the tomboy in me, having grown up with 5 brothers myself or whatever, but I cringe a little bit too when people say women's issues, right? And the reason I think is because I don't see women's issues as solely women's issues. Women are obviously an important part of the community, an important part of the societal structure of the family unit, of the professional circles. And so I see it more as community issues, perhaps they focus more on the experiences of women as it plays out in contributions to all of those circles. But, you know, just the idea of having something that's particular to women almost does us a disservice in that it doesn't really relay the profound impact it has on the broader community. So I would rather just say community issues relating to women experiences, perhaps.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that. I think sometimes when we push too much into this identity politics, not that identities aren't important and not that everything isn't political, but I get what you're saying. We're 50% of the population. It's a human issue at the end of the day, right? So.
Yeah. And I know there are those that might disagree with me, but, you know, it is what it is. We can respectfully disagree, but at the same time, tackle on some of those issues to hopefully make, you know, a good contribution to resolving them.
Yes, definitely. So the first question I have, let me send Sister Aisha another message quickly. Okay, so I think it might be internet connectivity issues. That's what I'm feeling. So let's move on to the first question, which is basically, what are some challenges that you faced in your capacity as a Muslim community leader and also a woman? And do you feel like it's because of you being a woman, the nature of your work and grassroots community work, or a little bit of both?
I think some of the challenges actually stemmed before I even came into these circles, because, you know, I'm an attorney by profession, and we already have a very small population of Muslims who go into the legal field. And then to be a Muslim attorney at that is also makes a minority within a minority, a person of color, you know, and then on top of that, I am visibly Muslim because I wear hijab, which then, you know, brings a whole nother layer of complexity into the circle. So there have been particular challenges, but, you know, Sister Lamia, one of the things that I always say is that, you know, maybe it's me being naive, but I don't really assess these challenges beforehand. I just look at what needs to be done and where I need to go, and I just move forward on it. I'm almost blind to the challenges, not blind in that I'm not realistic and I don't see what's in front of me, but at the same time, I don't allow it to hinder my progress in any way, because it frankly shouldn't, right? And, you know, whatever comes up, I'm going to deal with it head on as it comes. As it relates to grassroots mobilization and whatnot, there have been certain hindrances. Some of them are more personal in nature and some of them are professional. The more personal ones is, I come from a pretty conservative family, traditionally. You know, I myself am like this weird mixed hybrid between traditional and modern, I suppose, depending on people's viewpoints, right? And so, you know, again, finding a space that is very male dominated and oriented, and making sure that my parameters were still being met, you know, within my faith boundaries, within my personal perspectives and whatnot, was something that I had to, you know, really sort of make sure that I was true to and grounded with as I entered into those circles. And at the same time, you know, making sure that when I do enter those circles, that I'm heard loudly enough without being seen as loud. You know what I mean? Yes. It's also sometimes a struggle, right? Because I do think that, generally speaking, and this is not just for the Muslim community, but generally speaking, there are expectations, whether you call them biases or not, you know, of how a woman should behave, interact, whatnot, and those are not there for our male counterparts. Some of them are perfectly reasonable. You know, I'm not trying to say we should discard all of those expectations. Having said that, some of them are, you know, cultural biases that hinder our progression. And so just finding my way in that, generally speaking, like I said, I'm already conservative. And I wait for my cues in a way as I began those circles, and I took the time to take in my surroundings before I just jumped into the water, into the middle. You know, I want to see how deep the pool was, right? I'm no fool. But having said that, you know, alhamdulillah, I have found the community to be extremely receptive. I'm really blessed in that regard. And I've been invited in really at times that have, I won't say surprised me, but have really honored me, you know, such as this, for example. And so I see this as a blessing and a privilege. And so, whatever hindrances that I sort of faced on the professional level, alhamdulillah, I think the community has helped me to overcome just by their own welcoming nature to a large extent. On a more personal level, this is the kind of work that you have to give a lot to, obviously. And, I already knew a bit about that because as an attorney, I was in litigation, which also can be demanding. But having said that, being public was not something that my family was accustomed to. I'm the first woman in my family to go to college. I'm the first woman to drive a car. I'm the first woman to go to graduate school and then entering a very public arena. I remember the first time I had to do media. For a while, I was avoiding it. Then I brought it up to my husband and he was like, no, I don't think I want you to do media, right?
Right.
Okay, no worries. Explain it to me. Let's talk it out, right? And there was just this level of discomfort about how public, he wanted his wife to be, and that's a real deal discussion, right? And I share this only because I think that other women also have these kind of discussions if they're going to go into public fields. And it's a natural thing to do, and you should discuss it with your family because, as I always tell my kids, there's nothing that you do as an individual that doesn't impact the rest of us. So everybody's got to be on board, So those are some of the personal things.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily having that conversation with family. It's not necessarily an oppressive thing for your husband to say,
right.
No, because it affects him. And it's about, it casts an eye on the entire family, privacy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I get that. Actually, just out of curiosity, I feel like being a good lawyer, a good attorney requires you to have a particular personality, someone who's a strong speaker, eloquent, has, because when you're making a case to defend a client, you can't be this passive person. So I feel like maybe in your particular field, being a strong woman might be a plus. But do you feel like if maybe this wasn't your particular field, that maybe it would be a little bit different, that the perception of a very strong woman might come across differently?
Perception is one thing, but let's just go back to the premise. We have to define what strong means, right? And for some, it may be an outward perception of what is strong. So in other words, me being outspoken, me being at rallies and being able to speak to crowds, me walking into a courtroom confidently, right? Those can all be deemed as strong. But there's different strengths that people have, right? You can be very quiet and be amongst the strongest people that you encounter, right? That I encounter. So there are different kinds of strengths that we first have to recognize and acknowledge. If we're talking about public kind of strength, what we just sort of spoke about, then yes, of course, it helped that I did have that experience. But I only went into law and litigation because I knew I had those characteristics to begin with, and so it's important to assess yourself honestly, right? And to prioritize your strengths and to prioritize what you want out of life, and then put that together in whatever career path you choose for yourself. And then, subhanAllah, let's acknowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did this on purpose. He gave us different strengths for us to utilize, hopefully for the benefit of the community. Woohoo, Sister Aisha, you're here.
We're so happy you can make it. Sister Aisha, can you hear us?
Okay. One level of progress.
Yeah, at least we can see her. Sister Aisha, can you hear us?
Let's give her a quick message.
I can't see anyone.
Well, we can see you. Can you hear us?
Let's see.
What a world what a time to live in, right? When,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So hopefully we get that. It looks like one level of progress. Hopefully the next one will come soon so we could hear her beautiful voice. Yes, so I'm just saying that, subhanAllah, Allah gave us different strengths so that hopefully we use them in service to our community as part of our ibadah to Him. And at the same time, hopefully we have enough hikmah or wisdom to be able to take an honest assessment of our weaknesses and to rely on one another for the different strengths that we have, inshallah. She's smiling. I think she's good. Sister Aisha.
Can you hear us?
You see, so if I was the tech person right now, I'd know how to resolve this, but that's one of my weaknesses. So
Yeah.
I won't even attempt to.
I had to learn a lot of tech on the job. I also wasn't. Yeah. Can't see you. Can you hear us at least? We'll resolve this. It's always a little bit awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My hijab keeps sliding up.
Yeah, no judgment. Hopefully no judgment from the audience.
Inshallah.
Try increasing your volume. Can you hear us now, sister? Sister Aisha? No,
not yet, it looks like. I wonder, you know what? If I wasn't afraid of the bounce back, I would give her a call and let her hear us that way and have her participate that way. You think that's something that could work?
Yeah, we can try it. Go for it.
All right. I got to grab my phone. Yeah.
I'll mute her.
I just muted myself for a second while I yelled for one of my kids to get my phone. See if they heard. Thanks. Thank you. All right, I'm going to give Sister Aisha al-Adawiya a call. Maybe we can work it out that way. Hey, Miriam, charger, please. All right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's try it. This is all out of love and respect for our dear Sister Aisha. So hopefully we're going to try every possible thing that we can do to get her on. I know we can gain so much benefit from having her here with us, inshallah.
100%, inshallah.
Hello, assalamu alaikum, Sister Aisha. Can you hear us?
I see you.
Okay, we can see you. Well, your picture just went sideways for some reason, but I was thinking maybe if we include you this way, we can at least hear your voice. Sister Lamia, if I bring this close to the computer, can you hear her? Sister Aisha, could you say salam alaikum to Lamia? Let's see if we can hear you.
Sorry about the difficulty.
No problem. We're just happy that you can join us, honestly.
Okay, so we're going to try it this way, Sister Aisha. I'm going to keep you on the phone. If the computer problems resolves itself, then that's fine. But we just can't fathom this program without you. So at least we could hear your voice and gain some experience from you. Is that all right?
Sister Aisha, can you try to open your browser again?
Stay on the phone or go back to StreamYard.
Do you want her to go back, Sister Lamia?
Maybe if she can open the browser while still be on the call. This way we can.
Okay, so Sister Lamia asked that you please join online, open up the browser, but remain on the call, and we'll see what works best, inshallah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. All right, Sister Lamia, so she's getting that done.
All right. So while we wait for that, I don't know, would you like to finish up your thoughts on what you were saying earlier?
I think we wrapped that one up. I think I can remember it.
All right, let's see if this one works.
All right.
Probably
want to close that other window.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one to remove, the one with her face or the one that's currently loading. Okay.
I see myself.
Yeah, we see a still image of you, but it'll do. It's better than seeing the black loading screen.
So, Sister Lamia, why don't you address a question to Sister Aisha while she's on the phone? And I'm just going to mute myself for a moment while I plug in my phone so we don't deal with that technical issue as well.
Mm-hmm.
Margaret is asking me to close all apps, and I don't know what apps he's talking about.
Do you have other phone applications open at the moment?
Excuse me?
Do you have other phone applications open? Sorry, Afaf.
Lemia was asking if you have any other applications open on your phone. Like if you have a lot of windows or applications open, you may want to close them up so that, you know, your phone's power is focusing on one thing. Your Wi-Fi is focusing on one.
So then I'll have to come out of there and see which ones are still open. So I'm going to leave you for a moment. Okay, sis. All right. Rejoin us as soon as you can. Lemia, give me 1 second. If I don't plug this in, we're going to lose her on the phone too.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Well, if not for the interesting conversation, at least for the interesting technical difficulties that are currently going on. Welcome. Oh, we had her for a moment. Let's see what the public comments are. Oh, okay. Maybe you can send some public comments of questions or encouragement or things you want to add to the discussion. I see about 9 people are currently live streaming this. Maybe I can talk to the audience in the meantime to not make it completely awkward.
Okay, sis, I'm back. As soon as my phone is up again, I'll recall Sister Aisha because I lost her. But we can definitely continue and hopefully get to have her on. And you know what? We just roll with the flow, right? I mean, I think that's part of being a woman anyway. We roll with the flow. We gotta be adaptable, flexible, malleable. That's part of who we are.
Exactly.
Yeah, adaptable.
Which actually brings me to one of my other questions. What do we do best as women in this field of grassroots community work? Is it, I mean, I know earlier you said it's not everything has to necessarily be focused on being a woman, but you know, we do bring these unique strengths, these unique powers to the work of community organizing. And I don't know, in your opinion, what is that?
Perhaps part of it is being able to listen very well and to see common threads. I also think to some degree, women are very good at advocating for others just generally. I mean, again, we're talking in broad language. I don't want to stereotype. I don't want to say every person has, this, what we call superpower, right? But at the end of the day, understanding the plight of others and using that compassion to be motivated, almost to the point of self-sacrificing, which is something I do see a lot of women do, much more than our male counterparts. Is definitely, I guess you can say it as a strength or a weakness either way, depending on how it plays out. But those are definitely some of the things that I think are more unique to women. We, in general, yeah, would you agree with that, sis?
Absolutely. You, well, please finish your thought. I'll add on right after.
No, go ahead, please.
Well, I was going to say it's funny because I was just having this conversation the other day with a friend of mine, and yeah, I feel like sometimes this being emotional is for women is considered to be a negative thing, at least the way it's been described in maybe certain currents of feminist movement, or like the way certain men like to downplay women as being emotional. But I just find it completely ridiculous because I think it's one of the greatest strengths of not just women, but humanity in general, to be able to show compassion and empathy and have emotional intelligence. It's a form of intelligence. It's not being emotional.
No, I agree with you 100%, sis. And I'll go one farther than that, 100%. And I think you hit it on the nail when you said it's emotional intelligence, which really plays part into how to do anything well, really. Reading other human beings and being able to take that to empathize and sympathize, and then to be able to use that in a productive way is extremely important for the human experience. Having said that, though, I'll also even rant a little bit about this entire idea of men not being emotional. I mean, look, if our counterparts want to say that we're emotional in terms of sympathy, in terms of, I guess, empathy and compassion, well, I guess I would say, well, you know, if we're going to go along with the stereotypes, which I hate to begin with, but if we're going to go along with the stereotypes for a minute, then let's do that all the way. Who tends to get more angry faster? Is anger not an emotion?
Absolutely.
Right? Men also have their emotions as well. The only difference is that when that argument is used against women, it tends to say, because you're emotional, you cannot reason, or you are lacking in rationality. And that's something that I just completely disagree with, right? So having said that, you know, I think that's just the difference. I think both of us, both counterparts, male and women, male and female, are emotional. Perhaps if we're going to talk about the generalizations, emotional in different ways, but nonetheless, express emotion is something that's very much a human quality, not just a woman quality.
Absolutely. And the more I think about it, everyone has emotions, but I feel like when that's used to kind of when it's used to condescend towards women, it's trying to say that your ability to show compassion and empathy with others makes you less qualified to do work that is meant to almost be cold with others. Like when everything is so professional and you're just there for your own benefit and profit, not caring about the other person's emotions. I feel like that in this climate of, you know, neoliberalism, hyper-capitalism.
Sister Aisha, you back on, sis?
I'm sorry?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Okay, that's fine. We're gonna keep you on. We're gonna keep.
I can
Yes.
I can only hear you on the phone.
That's fine. I think we're going to keep you on the phone with Sister Lemia's permission so that we can at least get some of your wisdom in here. If your browser ends up working, she can connect you in. But at the end of the day, at the very minimum, we want to gain from your benefit and your wisdom, sis. Is that okay with you, Sister Lemia?
Absolutely.
And you can hear her okay on the telephone?
Yes. I think this will do. Yeah.
Do I need to go back into StreamYard?
Do you want her to try to go back in, Sister Lemia?
It would be nice to see her face, but if it's not working out and there are technical issues, let's just hear her voice. We can still benefit from her wisdom either way.
Did you hear that, Sister Aisha? Okay?
I can hear you, but Lamia is kind of cracking up. So
okay.
So I'll see your voice.
All right. Well, Sister Lemia said that while it would be nice to see your beautiful smile, it would at the minimum be good to hear your voice so that we can gain benefit from your wisdom. So if I need to be a go-between, it's all worth it, Sister Aisha, really. So,
thank you so much. Yeah.
All right, Sister Lemia. So let's just, I guess, catch Sister Aisha up to speed, if that's okay with you, Sister Lemia.
Sure. Well, first of all, Sister Aisha, can you just give us a quick introduction about you, your work, what you do for the community?
Well, a quick introduction is that I am a human rights advocate, and this is work that I've been doing for several decades now. I founded the Women in Islam, Inc. organization, which was founded to address rape atrocities that were happening at the time in Bosnia. So the work has continued to be crisis-oriented, and certainly we're in crisis these days. But now I'm looking to pass the baton to new, younger leadership. I'm currently on staff at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. And I'm just here now to encourage new generations of Muslim women in particular to rise up, take hold of their tradition, their Islamic tradition, and have that inform their activism as they, move forward and tackle the issues that are before us.
MashaAllah, we're so honored to have you, even though we can't see your beautiful smile. But
I'm so sorry about it, but I'll get there, inshallah.
Inshallah. So some of the discussions that we've been going through are challenges that you faced in your line of work, and whether you believe or feel that it has to do with being a woman or just the nature of community work in general, issues that you feel have come up, and feelings you have in your line of work as a woman.
Well, the work that I used to say that I chose, but I feel that the work chose me, actually, and I see it as a calling. But given the kind of issues that we're called to address, we expect opposition. There's no expectation that there's going to be easy entrees. So we're prepared for the backlash. Having said that, I would like to see, in my lifetime, some more mature development in terms of how we address, first and foremost, the efficacy of Muslim women's leadership. And I'd also like to see Muslim women who are in leadership positions to make visible their Islamic underpinnings, so that when they speak on behalf of the Muslim community, it's clear that that's what they're doing, and not just in their own right or, for themselves, as professionals, given their professions are. We have many brilliant young Muslim women out here. And, now is the time to step forward boldly and, let the people see you as you are, as you advocate, and stand up and be an example for those generations that are coming behind you. So my expectation has always been, because of the issues that I choose to address, and those are largely issues that have been either hidden, not given any serious consideration, or simply just swept under the rug. So those are the issues that are the most damaging in our communities, because they hit us at our core, and they are necessarily those issues that we must address in order to, emerge as a wholesome, viable Islamic community, and certainly as Islamic women leaders.
Absolutely. Actually, this is somewhat similar to the conversation that Sister Afaf and I were just having, and we were talking about the strength that women tend to have, which is emotional intelligence. And in your line of work, human rights advocacy requires a lot of that, because emotional intelligence isn't just about managing your emotions, but more importantly, it's about empathy and compassion with others, and understanding the pain and grief that communities go through and how to improve them. We were discussing this as, the more I think about it, it's not even what it means to be a woman, but it's very much a prophetic quality and character too. SubhanAllah, the Prophet ﷺ had emotional intelligence. He had compassion. He was gentle. He was kind. These are all qualities that we associate with femininity. He was fierce when he needed to be. He fought when he needed to, but he was also kind, gentle, and listened to others when it was time to. So these are, I think, qualities that everyone at the end of the day, should try to inculcate within themselves. But yes, Sister Aisha, so what, if you'd like to add on to the conversation, I don't really have a particular question because we were going through a particular.
I'd like to jump in here, Lamia.
Yes.
Women are often, acknowledged, for their softness, their gentleness, and, of course, we are compassionate and all of those things. But there is another, when we do that, there is somehow, I think we have an idea why, but we're always relegated to that realm, of just kind of suffering peacefully, if you will, and offering, a shoulder to cry on. And I think that we're in a place now, because of our own maturity, increasingly so as Islamic women, that when we show up, we automatically understand that we are carrying those qualities, those values with us as we tackle head on the issues that are crippling, devastating, killing our communities. And we have to be strong spiritually to go out and wage that kind of battle. And wage that kind of battle, we must. But again, we understand, I love the word adab and what it implies, and what it implies. And I've seen often that when we mention this, that there is a resistance in some parts of our community. People feel that they're being shut down because we're asking them to be bold, to be brave, to be fearless, in this war against injustice. But they see it often as an attempt to shut them down. And that is not the case, because we must be strong in our advocacy for justice, but we also have to tamper that with our Islamic adab, right? So everything we go, and that's what I'm hoping, that as we mature and go deeper as Muslims, that we will bring that quality along with us. That we can, stand on our own and tackle the issues before us, but we also understand that we are Muslims and that we have a code of conduct that we bring with us when we tackle these issues. And it doesn't mean that we're weak or spineless, but rather it means that we are ethical in our approach to everything that we do, including the fight for justice.
Yeah, mashallah. And this is why we needed you here, Sister Aisha, because at the end of the discussion, what I think we're all nodding our heads to and approving every word that you say is because I understand, I'm sure Sister Lamia understands, and hopefully many who are listening, that the root of your strength has to be based in your faith, at least for us as Muslim advocates. And so the stronger Islamic identity we have, and as Sister Aisha so eloquently said, being true to the adab, that our behaviors, our principles, our ethics to the Islamic faith, it's not a burden to do that. It doesn't hold you back. It only makes you a more fierce advocate and a more profound person, the more that you increase that base in your faith, right? Which is why, subhanAllah, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was so successful, because that was the root of his advocacy, and that was the way that he changed an entire society. I mean, if any of us are talking about human rights issues or injustice in society, then certainly he's the role model to do it, and it all came because of his strength, his adab, and the Islamic faith. So thank you for that reminder, Sister Aisha. Sister Lamia.
I also want to say that when we take this approach, we have to always be mindful that when we step out into the public square, we become ambassadors for our faith, right? People view Islam through our practice, and we have to own that and shoulder that, and respect and honor that, and by approaching even our opponents, our adversaries, with dignified opposition, right? We open the door for other people who do not belong to our faith tradition to at least be able to hear our message. So it's very important that we don't approach issues with arrogance, right? But we bring a calm, steady hand to the issues, and that when we do that, we leave room for other people to join in with us, and for us to join in with them, because we haven't shut ourselves off in a box, but rather we've opened ourselves to the broader humanity. And ultimately, we're living on the same planet. And whether we know it or not now, we'll certainly experience it later, that we're all here. And at some point, issues that oppress one of us is going to eventually touch all of us. So we put aside the egos and try to focus on the issues at hand and open the tent wide and allow everybody to come in and be, fight this fight, for human dignity and justice for everyone, not just Muslims.
Absolutely. And one theme that I feel like keeps coming up is that women very much are at the forefront of fighting for justice. Just this panel itself is evidence of that we have an executive leader, attorney who's fighting for human rights and justice. And we have you, Sister Aisha al-Adawiya, who's also fighting for human rights advocacy. And women, through, our tradition of our tradition of being authentic to what it means to be a Muslim woman, and caring about cultivating this adab, these principles and ethics and character development, we're contributing towards the forward to the progress of our community. And I just wonder, we're such a powerful force for the community, but at the same time, sometimes it may feel like we're also being sidelined when we can't even, in some places, in some masajid, women don't have adequate space to pray, or it's not considered to be a priority for women to have their own prayer space, or it's like this tiny corner that they get. I mean, I know at the end of the day that maybe going to the masjid is an obligation for men and for women. It's not an obligation because, things are harder for them at home. But even then, considering that we are out there fighting for the community, we want to, connect with our community, and a masjid is a central place to do that. What can the Muslim community do better to accommodate us and give women the space to cultivate their spirituality and continue fighting for community and doing all the important things that we're already doing?
Well, that's critical. I mean, yeah, go ahead, Lamia.
No, you go ahead, Sister Aisha, because I think you've been in this fight longer than others with regards to this particular issue. So you lead the way with this discussion, and if anything, I'll just add my 2 cents if there's anything other than what you say. Go ahead.
Well, it is a long struggle, but what we are finding, obviously, now is that we are so traumatized, I would say, by the treatment that we as women have received in far too many instances when we enter our prayer spaces, that they simply turned away, just stop going, create buried spaces, or just forget about this part about religion altogether. And that is a sad statement of where we are even at this moment. And what I find, I'm going to speak directly to the women now. What I found, of course, we've encounter opposition in masjid administrations, and rather than turning away or refusing to go, we must not walk away from our masjids. We can't abandon our masjids. It is very important that we don't do that. And I'm encouraging women that, as painful as it is when they enter, the masjids and, our sacred spaces, that they don't turn away, but that they stand up for themselves. And we have, examples, of our predecessors, women who were around the prophet himself and leaders after that. I mean, an example of the woman actually standing up at Juma and challenging about the amount of the mahar. I mean, she could not do that if she was not in the same masala prayer hall as the other people were, the men in particular. So I think what we have to do is, first and foremost, learn our own religion and not feel that we are forced to adopt other philosophies in order to make us feel powerful enough, strong enough to assert ourselves as deserving human beings, which we are. So what has happened, and I'm observing that as an elder now, that over the years, we see that as new generations come along, often they have no idea about the work and the struggle that's gone on before them. So that each generation, they are creating another wheel. It's just constantly reinventing the wheel, rather than building on the shoulders, that have paved the way for them to speak even. So I think that is a challenge that I throw out to young Muslim leaders now, that they need to take a moment to reflect on where they are, the platforms that they have, and to be cognizant of the fact that people did work, women did work before they came, right? And things just didn't start after they arrived, on the scene. But to really look into those struggles, to uphold those struggles, those sacrifices that their foremothers have made, and build on those. And a prime example, again, we're talking about the mosque. I see now that we have so many organizations now talking about women's access for mosques and women-friendly mosques and these kinds of things. Actually, we coined the term women-friendly mosque, right? But I'm not one who is self-promoting. And I take very seriously the Islamic teachings about boasting, So I tend to try and stay away from that. But it's important to remind ourselves that when you take positions and work that other people have struggled for so many years to at least begin to have a conversation about, to at least reference those struggles, so that our work is deeper than just the current face or personality before us. And that way, we begin to see how we can build institutions, our own institutions, right, that are powerful. I mean, if we could just imagine some of the struggles that your elders have waged, to make it possible for much of our younger generation today to even speak, and not have any reference to those elders, it's really, that's not acceptable. So we have to do better in that regard. So I'm saying all of this to say that we see so much brilliance in our community with Muslim women. I mean, they're just everywhere, just shining bright stars everywhere, right? And I would call on them to be mindful of the fact that they're standing on shoulders, that they did not create everything that they have today because of themselves. That first and foremost, the power came from Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? That they created nothing. That it all came from Allah, right? And whatever we did or continue to do, the power was from Allah, continues to be from Allah. And then you have to reach back, do your research, and see who has worked, who has struggled, who has sacrificed, who has bled for you to be able to stand now. And this is very critical, and especially at this time, so that we're not continually reaching back, trying to see, whose name is going to be prominent today, what office we're going to hold, this kind of thing. But we have to think more holistically about who we are as a community and where we are today, and how do we move forward as viable Muslims in this part of the world.
And there you go, Sister Lamia.
And that's a wrap. We're actually close to the end of our program, so at this point, if you have Sister Afaf?
Yeah, Sister Aisha was talking, but I didn't catch her because there was two voices on at the same time.
Oh yeah.
But I know you were saying, Sister Lamia, that we're nearing the end.
Yeah. So if you have any, maybe.
I didn't intend to monopolize this conversation.
Oh, no, we didn't have you for the first 30 minutes. Yeah. I mean, if you have any last minute thoughts, maybe advice to the community or to younger women about finding empowerment within your own faith and being true to yourself. And there's a lot of beauty in a Muslim woman carrying the good fight, helping your community move forward, the rewards. I mean, there are challenges, of course, but how to navigate those. Any last minute remarks that you have?
Sister Aisha, do you want to take that one first?
No, you go first.
Okay, then. Well, thank you for that. So I think one of the things that, again, going back to my own personal experiences, and something that is always to me deeply personal, and just I guess it should be rightfully a continuous struggle and a continuous thing that I try to remind myself is, if your ikhlas is not in the right place, then you're going to be, excuse my language, damning yourself. You're going to lose yourself, whatever it is that you're engaged in. Mm-hmm. And that requires a certain level of grounding and self-assessment at all times. And this is what Sister Aisha was also speaking about. She was talking about, how critical it is for us to approach our elders and all the work that they've done so that we can continue to move forward. Well, again, bringing it back to our faith. I mean, even the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who's a prophet of God, also looked towards the other prophets' experiences and his own formulas and his own plans and moving, and, if that's of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then how about ourselves? So just always staying grounded in your principles and ethics. I'm also asked a lot about going into spaces where our Islamic principles, or even just the way that we look, because as Sister Aisha rightfully said, we're ambassadors of Islam when we're outwardly Muslim the way that we are, like it or not. There's always a lot of questions about, either trying to fit in or dealing with discrimination there, working in spaces where people are just looking at you in the wrong way simply because you're Muslim, simply because you're a person of color. And I always tell them, if you're strong in yourself and your own ethics and your own principles and your own faith and in yourself, your identity, then let them squirm. You don't need to squirm, right? Let them be the ones that are uncomfortable. You focus on the task at hand. So if I did give advice to people, not just sisters, right? But people in general. I would say always take time to self-assess, to take a step back, always look for ways to improve yourself and to bring others into the fold of what you're doing, because ultimately it's about the goal, which is service to Allah, and having Allah accept that, which requires the right ikhlas. And then if you're strong in that and you're willing to work hard, because it is hard work, and you're willing to put in the effort that's needed, put in the effort that needs to be exerted, then those two things together with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will inshallah will be productive for yourself, for the community. So that's what I would say. Sister Aisha?
Yes. Well, I'm a firm believer that if you humble yourself, you can walk through many doors. You know, people will open those doors for you. And by what I mean by being humble is the absence of arrogance. You are confident, rooted in your values as an Islamic person, as a practiced Islamic person, and that you are confident that you have something to offer and you see the need in the community. But having all of those things before you, you are also very much aware of yourself as you enter the arena, and you don't enter as an arrogant person, because the very message that you're trying to convey will be lost because of you, your own arrogance, your own self-aggrandizement, Rather, if you come as a humble person, right, you're more likely to give people who are looking from the outside in the opportunity to hear your message. So that's my message, that you can be powerful. Yes, we must be strong, and we must be bold, to tackle the unpopular issues that are before us. I'm thinking now about the attacks in the Asian community. There's a history there. It didn't just happen out of nowhere. But we have to know about this before we can advocate effectively on behalf of these communities. Another thing that I want to bring out here is that I would encourage us to drop the term ally, right? Someone said that ally implies that we're giving people the opportunity to stand by until we need them. No. So that's not the word that we want. You claim the issue. It doesn't matter what your faith tradition, what your race is, what your nationality is. But if you are on the right side of the issue, means that you're advocating for dignity for everybody, right? Then you're not an ally. You are part of the struggle. So I would say, be humble yourself. Don't be arrogant, right? As you walk through the doors, and understand that whatever power you think you have, it is not from you, but it's from Allah. So that in itself is humbling. So I would say that, walk with that message. You understand that you are given a platform, but that the power comes from Allah, through you and not from you, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you so much for both of your reflections. Just right before we head out, I guess, to respond to the amazing things that both of you said, I think one thing that really caught my attention was, don't look to other philosophies for your worth and for your empowerment, because Islam at the end of the day has the answers on how to fight for justice, but also how to have the character to do it, right? And I think as Muslim women, especially in this day and age, in a society where capitalism and profit over people has valued certain qualities of pridiness, being overly rational, being a little bit colder towards others because that is the best way to make profit. One of these really important qualities have been sidelined, but as a Muslim community, just being authentic to these values, and as a Muslim woman, being authentic to these values as a source of empowerment for us to give back to our community. I think these are really important things that we should always be reminded of, always keep in the back of our heads, and always reflect on. So I thank you, Sister Aisha al-Adawiya and Sister Afaf Nasher from CAIR-New York, for joining today's program. I know there were a lot of technical difficulties, but I benefit from all of these conversations, and they're always good reminders.
Lamia, before we sign off, let me just say one thing in response to what you just said. We are taught as Muslims that knowledge is the lost property of the believer, right? True knowledge. And that we take it wherever we find it, right? But in order to be able to discern the value of the knowledge as it applies to our faith tradition, right? You have to know what that is, right? So first and foremost, to be grounded in your own faith, and then as you go out in the world and interact, which is what we do, you're able to synthesize, right? Because there's all kinds of information and knowledge that's available to us now, right? And we need to be grounded enough so that we're not taken over, overwhelmed. Malcolm X used to say, if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything, right? So we don't want to be like leaves in the wind, feathers in the wind, but we want to be intelligent enough to decipher those things that are valuable in the larger society, right? And then incorporate that into our already existing canon, of knowledge.
Absolutely. MashaAllah.
Thank you so much again. So we're about 8 minutes past our program. So thank you once again, Sister Afaf, Sister Aisha, for being on tonight's webinar series.
Thank you.
Thank you for just the wisdom. Thank you.
Lamia, really, Jazakallah khair. MashaAllah, you are an intelligent and brave woman in your own right, and I look forward to continued work with you, inshallah. And Sister Aisha, I mean, this program would be nowhere where it's supposed to be without you. And inshallah, certainly I've taken a lot of wisdom from you in every conversation I have with you. So inshallah, I think Sister Lamia and I both agree that we plan on continuing to learn from you and those that have the wisdom that we need as we continue our struggles together, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Well, the ball is in your court now as young leaders, and so your elders are relying on you, to carry the torch, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And may Allah make it easy for you.
May Allah accept everything from each one of us, inshallah.
Ameen. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you again, and have a blessed night.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you.
Thank you.